Rob, listening to those protesters, it seems that criticism is only going to get stronger. The pressure getting more on the Israeli government, isn't it?
I think that's about right, Will. It has been growing for some time. And with the death of the 3 hostages on Friday in Gaza, it's certainly going to grow even more. Already before that, the families of the hostages and others have been demanding that the government switch tactics and put much more emphasis on negotiations, and that they engage more in talks with Qatar about seeking the release of the hostages and entering into negotiations through mediators with Hamas. There was a suggestion by David Barnea, the head of Mossad, Israel's spy agency, that he should return to Qatar just a couple of days ago to enter into negotiations with the Qatari Prime Minister about that possibility, but that was scotched by the Israeli government. There is some talk that that may happen again, but there's certainly no question at all that there is growing criticism of the Israeli government's approach, which is that the best way to get Hamas to release the hostages is to put unbearable military pressure on them. What the families are saying is that that's just not working, especially given the fact that Hamas is saying that they will not enter into negotiations unless Israel commits to a full ceasefire. Hamas says it won't release any hostages alive unless that ceasefire is changed. So the pressure is definitely building up on the government, and the hostage families are demanding an audience with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah, and Rob, it's only going to get more difficult. We're already getting some of the findings based on the initial inquiry into that incident. A military official said this Saturday that the hostages were fired upon against Israel's rules of engagement and that the hostages were holding a white flag. Rob, on this sort of terrain in Gaza, what are the difficulties of engagement there?
When one has to feel for the Israeli soldiers on the ground, it must be immensely difficult. You know, what seems to have happened, as you said, is that the 3 hostages came out bearing a white flag on a stick, improvised, and were trying to signal to the Israeli army that they were hostages. The Israeli army took them, initially at least, for Hamas. They opened fire, 2 were killed, a third managed to take cover inside a building and was shouting out in Hebrew that he was a hostage. But the soldiers must have imagined, I think, that this was a trap, because many Palestinians speak Hebrew, and they must have thought that this was just to lure them into the building. In any case, the soldiers went in and they killed the 3rd hostage. But this is a situation which is fraught with difficulty for the army, because the buildings that were there have been destroyed by and large by artillery. The streets are in any case narrow. The population density is immense, particularly in some areas now, because the population of northern Gaza has been forced to flee to the south. So they're having to operate in conditions in which the opportunities for ambush by Hamas are very good. And the opportunities for the Israeli army to maneuver in the way that they would usually do, with their armor and so on, are much reduced. These sort of accidents are almost certainly going to happen again in the future.